Well, kia ora. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Raratonga. It's a pleasure to be here for the opening of this year's PICISOC conference, and on behalf of the Prime Minister and also the Government of the Cook Islands, I'd like to welcome you all. And I'm very heartened to learn that the Cook Islands is hosting this particular conference for the second time. The first time was in 2008, and which I believe some of you were here back then, and made some very valuable contributions by way of delivering training workshops and presentations. So I guess from 2008 to now, 2014, maybe you'll see some changes that have taken place. But I believe the number of participants attending this year's one is down from what was 2008. I can only surmise that this is because of the improved communications that we have, and a number of your participants are viewing this remotely or attending remotely. Let me say that as a Minister for Telecommunications, when we first came into the government nearly 4 years ago now, we made a commitment for Cook Islands to have faster, cheaper, and more reliable internet. And while there is no question that the government is making great strides to achieving this important goal, much work in this area still needs to be done, and therefore the government remains committed to the challenge we embarked upon when we were elected. You all know about the O3B network that we're now hooked up to. Also this year was the installation of our 3G network for mobile telephony. And for this, Telecom Cook Islands has to be congratulated for the work that they've done, particularly with O3B being the first country to sign up back then, which was, I guess, quite a leap of faith. For the country, but we were the first one to be turned on with O3B, and I have to say that it really has improved the quality of the service coming into the country. The only downside, of course, is with the amount of data people are now using, their bills have started to skyrocket, so there's got to be a bit of a balance that the company has to look at to ensure that people don't get turned off by the high costs. Because inevitably with higher speeds comes higher usage. But as a small island developing state that is very sparsely populated, spread over great distances of ocean and isolated from a lot of the major city centres, telecommunications has been and will continue to be a critical tool for the future development, the growth and prosperity of the Cook Islands. And as such, I have personally explored the option of an international submarine cable system to the Cook Islands, and subsequently we've commissioned a feasibility study focusing on the technical, regulatory and institutional aspects, as well as the financial and economic viability of the cable. The outcome report of this feasibility study indicates that the submarine cable system for the Cook Islands is an option very worthy of the government's consideration, particularly if we use our sovereign ability to be able to borrow at concessional rates as opposed to the more commercial aspect of trying to get submarine cable in place. Side by side with the submarine cable system is ongoing efforts to meet government's intention to reduce barriers for entry into the telecommunications sector. And we anticipate the passing of new appropriate legislation in the very foreseeable future, which will subsequently progress the establishment of an independent telecommunications regulator who will develop and monitor telecommunications policy, will administer related legislation and regulations with provisions for universal service obligation, will review telecommunications tariffs with a view to reducing it and consequently decreasing the cost of telecommunication services, and other responsibilities for regulating the telecommunications sector. I'm a firm believer that the role of the government should be in facilitating investment and regulation, monitoring and regulation. The business side and the operations side is far better done by private business. The government's role is to try and provide, I guess, an even playing field. Especially these days where the role of telecommunications is now becoming increasingly intertwined with entertainment, with broadcasting, and so forth. So it's important to understand that the infrastructure that's available is not just for use in telecommunications, but can be used by a wide variety of other service providers that the country will demand as we move forward. Along with all these developments, government has also embarked on a path aimed at improving public service delivery via a centralized government network. A very small example is now we're moving towards email addresses for every public servant is basically their first name, last name, at cookislands.gov.ck. So if you want to send an email to any government employee, all you have to know is their name. Whereas just a few short months ago, there was a whole range of different email addresses for the different government departments that operated here. So just for those small changes, we're starting to see some efficiency gains that normally would have been available to us. So this streamlining is a lot of our processes that will eventually have government services available online, such as the lodging of tax returns and so forth, which currently there's a lot of paper involved. And in spite of some initial teething problems, a lot of it not really technical, more human in reluctance to be able to change, I have to say that things are moving quite well. On the international front, I've just returned from the APT Asia Pacific ICT ministerial meeting that was held in Brunei. And the theme of this meeting was building smart digital economies through ICT. And there was one particular comment that I made at the meeting saying that telecommunications and ICT development is a continuous process that is evolving extremely rapidly, far beyond what we could have imagined a few years ago. It presents exciting but important challenges to effectively manage these changes. One of these challenges is human capacity building and the importance of effective training. Smart digital economy demands smart people to deal with innovative challenges that lay ahead. Accordingly, the PAC-INET conference provides a forum for smart and genuinely passionate people like yourselves to discuss and subsequently address the various ICT challenges that confront us. I therefore urge you all to continue to work together and support each other to enable smooth transitions and successful developments in the ICT, particularly in our region. I believe that initiatives towards capacity building and computer literacy, coupled with smart devices, are a must for us, both today and in the future. We need smart technology to assist with our education and health sectors. We need smart technology to assist with our emergency preparedness and recovery. We need smart technology to address issues related to people with special needs. We need smart technology for economic development, and so on and so on. To wrap up, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the sponsors, both local and international, who have helped in making this conference possible, and congratulate the local organizers, in particular the chair of PICISOC, Maureen, for all the preparations. I also want to acknowledge and extend a warm welcome to all of our participants from overseas, to you as individuals and also representing your regional and international organizations. Welcome to beautiful Rarotonga. I do hope you find the time during your week to enjoy yourselves and not just be hooked up to the internet. And I wish you all a fruitful and useful deliberation for the next 3 days. And without any further delay, I now declare the INET conference for 2014 officially open. Kia ora.
Thank you. It's not very often I get a chance to actually formally respond to the Minister, but I would like to say that I think the Cook Islands NZ are very heartened by what you're envisioning for internet development in the Cook Islands, and we'll appreciate any further developments in telecommunications here. But I think also, in keeping with our line of thought from our Cook Islands Internet Action Group, for example, that the cost of the services, as you actually already acknowledged, is already quite high here in Cook Islands, and if the government can find any way in which to reduce those costs, it would be much appreciated. Taking into account, as you say, that the rate of use is going to be, it's going to be more dynamic, and we would really, we just believe that for those for whom the access is more important, and they're usually the ones who are actually on the low income level, that the cost is definitely an issue. But I know that we are actually sort of like finishing this part of the proceedings quite early because I just have to leave. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a little bit of a break, and then we're going to go straight into the program because as soon as we can get some extra sessions in, the better for us. Okay, and we've just been reminded that we do have to have a photo taken, so we'll do that first. Okay, great. So where would you like us to go? Photo shoot. Out the room. Out the room. Okay, thank you. So if we could just move down here, that'd be really great. Thank you.
No, it's working.